book banning has been one of the biggest hills I'm going to die on. With the fact that that people are asking for these books to be banned for the weirdest reasons, and it's like, oh, it's not the standard anymore.
Welcome to Third Side Convo with your host, Bob Phipps. Your panelists today are Brandon Berger, Cash Tarbell, Johnny Dunn, and Tiberius Boy. And now your host, Bob Phipps.
Well, welcome, everyone, to a special edition of Third Side Convo. What we're going to do is we're going to be turning the reins over to the next generation. So we've got some teenagers here today, and they're willing to actually tell their opinions. And we've got some responsible adults with them. We got Johnny and Tiberius on one side, and Tiberius' good friend Cash, and Brandon on the other. And, of course, topical, or we'll just say perfect Third Side Convo, they did a rock, paper, scissors to come up with the topic of book banning and all the hullabaloo that's still going on with book banning. So let's just get going and let's figure out, listen and open up and let's see what the future has to say. So, Cash, you pick this topic. Why book banning, and what do you see as the issues with it? Give us a kind of maybe a couple of 30-second opening statement on book banning.
It's been a recent problem, recently. Some people have, or some politicians have, taken it too far, banning some types of books, like homosexual books, or, sometimes they just ban books for no reason, it seems like, and that's why I picked the topic.
Okay, excellent. Tiberius, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts are that certain politicians that I will not name because of Uber Discourse rule have banned some books because of personal reasons or just unpopular reasons. There's also problems with the online banning books in schools, like websites that have their school website that have parents allowing to ban books. So I have a quick problem with that because they can do as many books as they want.
All right, Brandon, you're a teacher. Book banning ever been part of what you've had to talk about?
Not in my classroom specifically, but then again, I teach adults, so
yeah, exactly.
We are all fairly responsible people. But definitely, but in all seriousness, book banning has been one of the biggest hills I'm going to die on. With the fact that that people are asking for these books to be banned for the weirdest reasons, and it's like, oh, it's not the standard anymore. Oh, it's not adhering to the traditional values that I want my children to follow. But then again, as Tiberius was pointing out, parents can go on school websites and request specific books to ban. But what if a book that one parent wants to be banned another parent doesn't want to be banned? There's got to be some debate or discourse for that to happen.
All right, Johnny Dunn, why don't you tell us possibly why some books might need to be?
If you go to Home Depot and you buy a packet of seeds, gives you the optimal planting and growing to pull out the most technical plant there is. And the reality is, I bet everyone on this meeting would agree, the optimal child would come out being really loving, really empathetic, really compassionate, ability to think on their own. And a lot of books don't churn out that result. And thus, they have no place. And it would be absolutely the best if they went bye-bye. Because there is a lot of stuff there. I think we could all agree on the optimal standard of a child that we want to turn out. And if the book does not align with what I have zero doubt we would all agree on, get rid of it. Because the fact of the matter is, there's a bunch of crap out there, and it has no place in society. It's not helping forward society along at all.
For example,
Yeah. Smut. How's that for an example?
okay, but then, what book? Like, can you give me an example of a specific book that you would define in a school library that would be considered
Anything
smut?
pornographic at all? Anything talking about giving your boyfriend blowjobs? What's the point of that for a kid? I mean, it has no place. It is despicable, and it was put out by a pervert.
Okay, let's let
Just
the kids
remember
let's let the
to
kids weigh in,
there
adults.
are 2 minors on this show.
Okay, there we go. Let's let the minors take a crack at both of that, because we see where the adults are on this one right now. They could definitely go to it.
I remember I had actually a book that isn't banned, but some parents did not want me to have it. It was a book about puberty for boys. And in fact, I even interviewed my old school principal with a book of the week using that book. I did it as a prank for him, and he enjoyed it. Now, I have no idea why, but I found it really funny, and I don't know why any parent will want that book to be banned.
Cash.
Yeah, that's basically a medical book then.
Well, I mean, it was really just a book explaining puberty, and it did have some like photos and stuff, but really some parent was just really frustrated because they had a daughter who was like really young, and I don't really know what to say.
Okay. Are there books, Cash, that some ages should not see? And that's what, from what I understand, some of the book banning had to do with taking him out of elementary school and putting him into high school, that type thing. So should there be some age appropriate?
Yes, I would think there should be some age appropriate, like a high school level book. It may be high school level reading, but it's elementary appropriate. It's just like hard words. That would be fine if it's still in an elementary school. But if it's like high school level topics compared to elementary like level reading, then it should just be put in a high school, and maybe not even people read it, because it's, even though it's meant for elementary, it's still meant for high school because it's high school level topics.
Ooh, I have a question. What if it's a topic that's for high school, but what if it's written in a children's book?
Then that's like the only thing that I would understand being banned, because then it's not appropriate for children, and then it's meant for children. Like, why even write it at that point?
Ooh.
I mean, as a hypothetical, that doesn't even make sense.
Well, I mean,
Why
I
would
know
someone
someone
write
who
it?
kind of did, Brad Goss. I interviewed him.
Fair.
What
But
did he
then
say? What's the example that Brandon's asking about, Tiberius?
An example is rich kids. They're better than you. I mean, there are plenty of examples in that one book that Brad Goss made that have definitely written in a children's book that he made himself and you can buy on Amazon. There are definitely some examples on that.
So then the question for that one becomes, was that book intended for an adult audience, just written in a children's book perspective? And secondly, who's putting that on the bookshelf of an elementary school library?
I haven't
Or
seen it in
rather
any
than that,
schools,
who's putting that
but
on the bookshelf of an elementary school library after doing research on the book itself?
I haven't seen my school do it. I did see one in a public library, though, but I'm not sure which section it was in. I forgot.
But that's a public library. The public libraries have to cater to all topics at all levels. And if it is put in a children's section, that is essentially by mistake because someone didn't look at the book and realize what it was.
I can agree with that.
All right, Johnny, let's give you a chance again to jump in, because you kind of just did your opening statement and you've heard a little bit. What's your thoughts now?
On what specifically?
Well, just the whole concept that things should be separated, because from what I understand, at least, that's most of the banning going on has been taking it away from certain levels of kids to be able to read and putting aside for the older kids to read.
Look, once again, I just think everybody needs to get together, come up with agreed upon standards. What are we trying to churn out in this world? Because right now it's people who aren't happy, who are insecure, who have no ability to budget checkbooks, and then categorize the books appropriately by the age. But what we are churning out right now is not a highly educated person. It's a obedient person that gets a job they hate and pays their taxes.
Wow. All right. Well, let's go on and take our first break. We got to hear from our sponsors, and everybody sit back for a second, and please, subscribe on Facebook, go on YouTube, please like us, and we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today, and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad. My computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810. The Tiberius Show would like to thank Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures for being one of our sponsors. I got to go on an airboat and saw a real gator. I even got to go to the gem mine and mine for some gems. We ate a steak dinner at the restaurant and even got some gator bites. If you want to have a blast with the entire family, I suggest you go to www.bcairboats.com right now. Get your tickets today. The website again is bcairboats.com.
All right, we're back. Now, Roald Dahl, wrote these kids' book that I happened to read. I'd never read one before, Matilda. And, oh, my God, that book could be written for adults. I'm sorry. It is not for kids. And back in the day, we used to have cartoons that the parents would understand most of the jokes. The kids wouldn't, but they'd still laugh. Johnny, give me some specific things that shouldn't be in books that are in school libraries. Why don't we go that way?
Anything to do of a sexual nature, because first off, most people, they're not big book learners. Topics about sex and intimacy and love and making love, that needs to be between a parent or someone knows how to talk about it in an educated fashion, and shouldn't be just in some random book some kid could grab who doesn't really have the tools to understand. Genderqueer, that was the big topic of conversation. It's absolute trash written by a human being being led by other kids that are confused about where they're going. Hell, most adults are confused.
Yeah, I got you. Brandy, you actually nodded on a couple of those things that he was saying.
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that there are certain topics, especially those type of topics, that are exclusively adult topics that can be discussed with children, but only by trusted adults. What I think, I don't remember who said it. Someone was coming back into a point about cartoons and how adults are finding more relatable topics. Like when Bluey first came out, that's a perfect example. It was written. I think it was written. I remember hearing something from one of the writers on the show about how the story is a simplistic children's story per episode, but then it also ties into these deeper themes that resonate with adults. I think one particular episode was I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the two sisters Bluey and Bingo are play acting to be their mom and dad, and the mom is they're pretending the mom is pregnant, and there's a balloon stuffed under his shirt, but then the balloon pops. Oops. And you see the father quickly grab the mother's hand. Now, most kids wouldn't see that, but an adult would see that, and it's like, oh, she had a miscarriage.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, Tiberius, so you kind of say that there should be kids. I mean, there should be books and there should be items. What did you think, though, of the whole hullabaloo over book banning? I mean, was it overblown, or did it have some good points to it?
There were some good points. I mean, there's a few books that I definitely don't agree with. And me and Cash have a few things we agree about book banning, which is in elementary school, there shouldn't be books talking about sex or homosexuality. Let them figure that out when they're in their teenager stage, like I did. Or like me and Cash did. We had the talk in 7th grade in 4th period in science class. I remember that day because that was one of the days that me and my friends had the most fun. because we made jokes about it, and the teacher was fine with it because we knew how to talk about it. Now, I don't think elementary school kids should know about it yet, or that there should be books about it, just because of the reasoning of what could happen.
Cash, you agree with that?
Yes, I agree with that.
You remember that day, I take it.
I do.
What book were y'all talking about that day? Or what were some of the books y'all were talking about?
We didn't really talk about books. We were talking about human anatomy, but there was one book the teacher did say. I believe it was the one that I did on the show.
Yeah.
Wasn't really sure, but really it was a good book that I think the school was okay with.
Right. Okay. Well, Johnny's right. I mean, we go back to a time when there wouldn't have been anything like that generally in the mainstream. And most kids' stuff always had these good morals and all this other stuff, even though, let's face it, some of them were pretty, like fractured fairy tales or whatever, were pretty violent. But yet they talked about what Johnny's talking about, which is good moral issues. Johnny, we need more of that, don't we?
Absolutely. I was making a note about because I'm out in the world helping people every day and, talking about real world skills, health, science, actually having confidence, the ability to make decisions, not emotionally, having integrity, learning how to communicate, being creative, and problem solving. All the books out there should be surrounded around topics like that, and not just this BS nonsense that adds absolutely zero value to the world. I am out in the real world helping people lead their best life, and I see all the gaps that the education system is not covering, and that's what books should be covering. Things that actually add value to the world, help people lead their best life, help them be truly happy and not grabbing onto the societal BS. And that's where the education needs to go. If it's not accomplishing that, it's pointless. What do we know about human beings? They love pointless shit. And why do they love pointless stuff? Because it starts early.
Cash. Or Brandon, you haven't weighed in, and I thought you and Johnny were going to be going at it like, cats in a bag type thing.
I was going to interject quickly, but I didn't have a short enough statement to quickly interject with, because I think he's hitting on two separate points there, because he's talking about education, but we're talking about books. Like there is a connection between, of course, you use books are an integral part of education, but when the issue is that people want to ban books from everywhere, then it becomes kind of two separate topics. Now, I agree with you, Johnny, on the fact that kids need to be educated on appropriate and significant concepts like problem solving and creative thinking and generally surviving without having to go with the mainstream. But again, it comes down to, is limiting information the solution to that? Because it's no, go ahead.
It's not limiting information. It's getting rid of trash. And 2 times a week, we take the trash out.
No. Again, removing books that are of certain topics that aren't appropriate for that age group, that's fine. I'm 100% down with that. I think we all are kind of down with that, right, Cash? Right. I'm just thinking, looking at, because I was looking at some of the banned book lists here in Orlando, and some of the books on there were standard curricula standard high school curricula, and then were being banned from high school libraries.
Which ones? Which ones did you see?
I think off the top of my head, I think To Kill a Mockingbird and The Great Gatsby were definitely up near the top 10 of that list.
Mm-hmm.
Because The Great Gatsby was emphasizing use of drugs and alcohol, as well as promiscuous and dishonest behavior.
Go, Cash. Cash, you're up.
To Kill a Mockingbird is actually in my 8th grade ELA class. It's one of the projects that was done in the past few years. And it's banned in high school libraries now?
It was on the proposed banned list. That's the thing.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if it actually went through.
Yeah, because if it doesn't go through, then it's kind of different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of
but
agree with Cash on this one. I don't think that should be a banned book, even for those reasons, just because in high school libraries, they talk about that stuff normally. I mean, seriously. I mean, it's funny because I was going to read To Kill a Mockingbird for my project, but I decided not to. But I don't know. I mean, really, that book, I was going to read that in high school. I didn't even realize it might be banned. I don't want it to anymore.
Well, then another one I think that I should have said first, which I actually also did in an 8th grade English book ELA book report, was Fahrenheit 451.
Oh,
by Ray Bradbury. That one really ruffles the feathers because it is all about literally what we're talking about, removing books from circulation to the point of them no longer existing.
Surprisingly, I enjoyed reading that book. I liked the topics about it just because it explained what the real world does. I mean, seriously, Cash, you agree, right?
Yeah, I haven't read it, but it sounds like a good book.
Yeah, it's better than the movie.
The government suppressing information and suppressing access to information.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten the gist because my ELA teacher talks about it so much.
Well, you have some books that are like the Kill a Mockingbird was because there are some racial references in there. So basically, both sides have actually attacked various books for various reasons. There really hasn't been a lot of ultimate ban, like you can't get the book anymore. It's not as if you can't go on Amazon and get the dadgum book. And it sounds like pretty much everyone here agrees, that age appropriateness has got to be taken into account. Mm-hmm. Okay,
true.
good.
But then there was also an issue. I remember I follow this particular children's author on TikTok, and he wrote a children's book about being Black and about appreciating the color of his skin and appreciating the differences of other people with other skin colors. And he was getting letters from bookstores where his book was selling, saying that due to concerns from our customers, we can no longer stock your book for sale.
Well, and let's face it, Dr. Seuss also, took a hit, right? I mean, that was during that time that Dr. Seuss, they were like rewriting stuff and everything on Dr. Seuss. So,
oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just both sides have done it, and I don't think the bannings is serious. It's certainly a wonderful topic to talk about. So, boy, that was a very quick 20 minutes. So we're gonna go and get set up for our next break.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
All right, Cash, so tell us some of the books that I don't know if you agree with Tiberius on this, but you do believe there are books that just shouldn't be there until you get to a certain age. And on what subjects, I guess, is what I'm talking about. Is it only sex?
Yeah, like that, but that's like a lot older. But like some of the ones that I would say is like LGBTQ plus communities are like those types of ones. Like,
okay,
you shouldn't teach this to elementary school students. Let them find that out on their own and see how they feel. And then if they like middle school, probably high school, like late middle school maybe, then you allow them to have those books because they might actually feel that way. And I've actually seen, like, a few years back, my dad told me that some politicians in Florida were, like, banning a ton of homosexual, like, LGBTQ books. And it was just, like, it's limiting their – and how they can feel. Like, why would they do that? And so why even ban them in the first place if they're only for high schoolers in the first place?
Right. Yeah, it's
Okay,
funny.
but
Yeah, but
okay,
okay.
but you know how kids can be. Like this one's 8 years old. You know, at that age, they're just going to be asking random questions anyway. Or like they might have a classmate who has LGBTQ parents. Thank you, bud. And might ask his parents a question. It's like, hey, my friend in class has two dads or two moms, and then but then that's not the responsibility of the school, of the teacher, or of the education system to explain that. That's the responsibility of the parent.
Right.
Now that can go either way. However, it's important to note that children are going to, even at elementary level, are going to be exposed to that, whether they want to or not. And I do agree, Tiberius, with what you were saying earlier about that geography teacher making the LGBTQ lesson. But because you're right, a geography teacher teaches geography. I mean, if you want to have a discussion about the LGBT community, teach social studies, I guess.
Got it. All right. Well, that's going to be a wrap for the show here. And so what we're going to do is, the adults, we appreciate y'all staying quiet. We could have probably stayed a little more quiet. The kids are getting on. They're going to get better as we have them back again. And we really appreciate y'all being on tonight. So check out more of our content on thirdsideconvo.com. Like and subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss the next one. And if you want to be part of our conversation, please let us know, because we're always looking for more people to be on the Peanut Gallery and to be on the show. So other than that, we look forward to seeing you again on another segment of Third Side Convo. Thank you all.